Hi Damon, welcome to Chapter 2. In this video I'll be discussing a little bit about the critique of the implementation seen in Chapter 1 and some GDPR compliances. So the implementation seen in Chapter 1 is the implementation of a drug addiction tracker that records personal health data of a drug addict trying to get clean. So here's a set of data that I ran over a period of time pressing the button at different times. Some aspects of the system can be identified. So talking about semantic side of things, which is referencing contextual data, the system uses one communications without semantics, BLE, and one with semantics, MQTT. The data recorded is not raw as it is contextualized in MariaDB and InfluxDB. The system records different types of information, volatile, for example the button click, static, and quasi. The communication of all the devices is apparent. Raw information of the button is inputted and converted in real time to a database, creating context, and the context is then added to make it contextual in order it to be read and turn it into observable data such as seen in Grafana. So some critiques of the implementation. So I would add a button dial instead of just a button to indicate the severity of the relapse. This can add further implementation on the system. Another thing which would be good on the security side of things is removing the global variables, as you can see there on the screen, which I have outside of all the functions, to be removed and put into respective functions. So these global variables outside the function makes them susceptible if there is a breach. Adding a TTL, which is a time to live, it basically deletes entries after 30 days or however much the user has configured it to delete after a preferred period of time. So I also have a doctor function in here where the doctor is called after 10 presses of the button and the counter is reset straight away. What should happen is that after the 10 presses have been counted, the counter should get stuck and the doctor should be informed and the counter should reset the next day. The instant reset was only for the demonstration. The doctor information will also be stored in production and should be kept safe, and the user has the option to input it in. In terms of GDPR, if this device is used in industry, the device manufacturer liability should be checked. All for Grafana, Microbit, MariaDB, and Influx. There's a couple points in relation to storing data in compliance with GDPR. One requirement of GDPR is that a client wants their data to be wiped, then it should be wiped on all systems and not leave any trace at all. Also, clients must explicitly opt in if there are any company or industry-wide data analytics, even if it is anonymous. The other rules being that the entire goal of this is that the data processing is transparent to the end user. If there is a data breach, then the client must know. Say, for example, they got hacked. If there's an international data transfer of the client to some other country, then client must know as well. Another point would be data accuracy in GDPR. Making sure that the data you collect is accurate and kept up to date. You should delete any inaccurate data or maybe add a TTL as I mentioned before into the program. User consent is very important when complying with GDPR. Prior to collecting data and personal data, it is essential to provide users with transparent information about the intended purposes of their data collection. This information should be easily accessible and written in plain language to ensure users fully understand how their data is being stored and used. The user should be able to access their data to increase transparency. Security measures are also very important to safeguard their personal data that is collected. It is essential to apply encryption protocols, access controls, and regular security audits. So encryption ensures that the data remains confidential during transmissions and long-term storage, while access control restricts unauthorized access to sensitive information. And regular security audits which would help identify vulnerabilities within the data. Employing all of these approaches to security, this would encounter many emerging threats, and IoT manufacturers can instill user confidence with using these methods in terms of complying with GDPR regulations. All these practices I mentioned above will allow the management of data for safe and long-term storage of the information. I hope you enjoyed both the demonstration Thanks so much for listening. The presentation about GDPR and the critique of the implementation process.